Hey everybody, it's Josh with Zoo Studios, and today we're going to dive into something that I've been getting more and more requests for as the player base grows and a community starts to form around zoo tiles. And that request is for a very simple, straightforward, streamlined how to play zoo tiles video. And so that's what we're going to jump into right now. Zoo Tiles is a competitive, strategic tile placement game using decks of tiles. And for this video, we're going to be using the decks of tiles that can be found in Starter Set 1. So, the decks that are in Starter Set 1 consists of 2 pre-constructed decks. One of those decks consists of dogs, tigers, and horses versus a deck of pigs, rabbits, and rams. The object of zoo tiles is to be the first to score 12 points. And there are 2 primary ways to score points in zoo tiles. The first way is to do what's called complete a square of compatible creatures. And that's kind of a mouthful, so I'm going to break that up into 2 concepts. The first being compatible squares or compatible creatures. What's that all about? And then we'll talk about completing a square of them. So let's jump into discussing what a compatible creature is, or compatibility in general. So what you'll notice here in all these tiles is that each of them have a rather large icon at the top. And that icon represents the tile. So for instance, this icon represents rabbits, this icon represents pigs, this icon represents horses, tigers, dogs, and rams. And what you'll also notice is that there are smaller icons that run up and down the sides of these tiles. And what those smaller icons represent are the tiles or creatures that this tile is compatible with. So for instance, let's take a look at this rabbit here. You can see that the rabbit is compatible or friendly with oxen, other rabbits, rams, dogs, and pigs. You can see that this ram here is compatible or friendly with rabbits, horses, rams, and pigs, and so on. You can see that each animal has some that are kind of lit up and some that are kind of not. And so the ones that are more lit up are the ones that it's friendly or compatible with. So that right there is a quick explanation as to compatibility and how to tell what tiles are compatible with others. So we're going to jump into really quickly here, and we are going to play a little mock demo of a game. And we are going to say that I am playing rabbits and my opponent is playing pigs. And when you start a game of zoo tiles, there's nothing in the playing field, nothing in the playing area. And so the game starts when a player takes a tile and places it in the very center of the playing area. So that would be me starting a game. That'd be an example of me starting a game. Now, whenever a tile is placed into the playing area, it must be placed facing the player who placed the tile. So for instance, since I started it, I'm placing the rabbits facing me, and then if my opponent were to place a tile, let's say they were to start the game, they would place it facing them. But I started the game, so we'll start with the rabbit here. And then another thing to note is that after the very first tile is played, each subsequent tile needs to be placed in what's called a neighboring or orthogonal position to a tile that's already in the playing area. So for instance, since I started with the rabbit there, my opponent had the options for my opponent to place a tile into the playing area would be here, 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 or here. And let's just say that my opponent decided to place it there. Let's kind of move that there. Then on my turn, you can see that my options for placement have kind of grown. I could place it here, I could place it here, I could place it here, 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 or here. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that I decide to place it here. Now on my opponent's turn, what they might notice is that this is almost forming a square. There's just one piece missing, right? So if they were to put a piece here, they would do what's called complete a square. And if they didn't, then it wouldn't be completed. Their options they have many more options now. They could place it here, 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 or here. And let's just say that they decide to place it here and complete the square. Now, whenever a square is completed in Zoo Tiles, the game freezes for a second, and we do what's called a compatibility check. And what we're checking for is to see if each tile neighboring another tile is compatible with it. So let's do that check real fast. So is this rabbit here compatible with the pig? Yes, it is, because it has the little pig icon. So these two are friendly or cool with each other. Is this pig compatible with this rabbit? Yes, it is, because it has the little rabbit icon, so that means these two are friendly. Is this rabbit compatible with this pig? Yes, it is, because it's got the little pig icon. And is this pig compatible with the rabbit? Yes, it is, because it's got the rabbit icon. So, because my opponent was the person responsible for completing a square where all the creatures in the square were compatible with their neighbor, they will have completed a square of compatible creatures. And when any player completes a square of compatible creatures, they actually remove all the tiles from the playing area and they put it in their point pile, and it is worth 1 point for each tile put into their point pile. So in this case, my opponent would score 1, 2, 3, 4 points. And if you remember from the beginning, the object of the game is to score 12 points. So they're almost, well, not almost, they would need to do that 2 more times and they would win the game. But it's a little bit more complicated than that, because now that we know how to play the game a little bit better, I wouldn't just set them up and just be like, okay, well, I know that you're playing pigs, so I'm going to go ahead and put this here so you can fill the square and get all the points. No, what I would probably do in that situation is I would either maybe put the rabbit here, or maybe put the rabbit up here, or maybe I wouldn't even place the rabbit at all. Maybe I would hold it until it was looking like a little bit better position for me to actually place the rabbit. So that right there is compatibility and completing a square of compatible creatures. And with that explanation, we are at about 60% of the game taught. Now, the next thing we're going to go over is things called action tiles. And action tiles are the tiles that allow things to do cool stuff. They can make a move, and there's just a bunch of different little special powers. But anyway, action tiles come in 3 flavors. They come in action tiles, they come in reaction tiles, and they come in tiles that can be used as either action or reaction. And so the way that these work is, let's say that I have a hand of tiles. Let's say this is my hand, and let's say that I've got these in my hand. And let's also set up a little board state real quick. Let's say that this is the board state. Sure, why not? Let's just put that there like that. Say that's the board state. And let's slide it over here. And on my turn, I'm looking at my hand, and I'm looking at all the cool things I might be able to do. And I say, oh, I see that there's an action here that I want to do. So the way that I would play this action is I would simply tell my opponent, I would like to place this action. So I don't show it to him. I didn't show him my hand, but I would take the tile and I would put it off to the side. And I would say, opponent, I would like to do this action. And then what my opponent would do is look through their hand and see if they have any reaction tiles. And if they do, they could take it and place it face up, right on top, right physically on top of the action tile, and say, I would like to react to your action. And then it would come back to me, and I could see, oh, well, I see that you're trying to react to my action, so I would actually like to react to your reaction of my action. And we would go back and forth in this manner until neither one of us wanted to add any more reactions to this, which is called the basic action stack. And we basically continue to add, it always starts with an action tile, and then reaction tiles are always placed on top. And so we would go back and forth building this up until neither of us wanted to add any more reactions to it. And then we would, the player who placed the top one would take it off, read it, do what it says, and then after, it might say, like for instance, this one says rabbit leap, so it might have a rabbit like leap away, or it could, there's a lot of different action and reactions that these tiles could be. And so, but after this is done, then it's put into the discard pile. And then the next tile is done, and it's put into the discard pile, and so on and so on. And we work our way down until we get to the actual action that somebody wanted to do. Now, if you've played games like this in the past, like trading card games, you might notice, or you might know that depending on how many reactions you put on, the odds of an action actually happen lessen the more reactions that happen before it. So it could very well be the situation that when you get to the action, it can't be completed for whatever reason. And if that's the case, then you just take it and discard it, put it in the discard pile, and then that's fine. So that right there is the action-reaction tiles. These are called the action tiles. And with that right there, we're about 70 to 80% of the game taught. And then the last little piece I'm going to teach is battling and how battling works. So let's take a look at this. Let's say that in this situation, my opponent actually starts the game. And he or she starts off with a rabbit. And then on my turn, I decide that I want to place a pig here. Now, the way battling works is very straightforward. It's a simple comparison of strength and intelligence. So, for instance, this rabbit here has a strength of 1 and intelligence of 3, and the pig here has a strength of 3 and intelligence of 4. Now, in order to win a battle, one tile or team has to have both a greater strength and greater intelligence in order for them to win the battle. Anything else, and it's a draw. So, but in this case, it's looking pretty good for the pig, because since the pig has a 3 strength versus the rabbit's 1 strength, it is stronger. And since it has a 4 intelligence versus a 3 intelligence, the rabbit's also smarter. So this battle is looking pretty good for the pig. But how does a battle actually happen? It doesn't just happen by me saying, oh, my pig wants to battle your rabbit. What actually ends up happening is that when you decide that you want to do a battle, you take any tile in your hand. So let's just say that this is my hand here, and I've got a bunch of tiles. You can pick any tile in your hand. And what you would do is most likely choose the one that you're not going to use, or something that is the least important tile in your hand at any given time. And what you would do is you would take that tile and you would place it face down off to the side. And you would say, opponent, I would like to start a battle. My pig would like to battle your rabbit. And so what my opponent would do is they would possibly look in their hand for something that is a reaction. And if they found a reaction that they wanted to play, then they would take that reaction and place it face up like that. And they would say, I would like to react to your attack. And then I might look through my hand and say, oh, okay, well, I want to react to that. Let's just say I have something and I'll react to that. And it goes back and forth in the exact same manner that we did with the basic action stack. This is actually called a battle action stack, but it works exactly the same as what we just talked about. So when we're finished building this up and no one wants to add any more reactions, we take the top tile and we do what it says, and it could say a number of different things. But we do what it says to the best of our ability, it gets discarded, and we do the next one, the best of our ability, gets discarded, until we get to this tile here. And this tile here is a placeholder for the battle. And once this tile is reached is when we do the comparison between strength and intelligence. So again, we would do that comparison. We would see that the pig has a strength of 3 versus a strength of 1, and the pig has an intelligence of 4 versus an intelligence of 3. So the pig would win the battle against the ram, and this would get discarded. Now what happens once a battle is won is that the player controlling the attacking tile, or the winning tile, actually captures the other tile by removing it from the playing area and putting it into their point pile. And that would be worth 1 point. So if you remember from the beginning of the video, I said that there's 2 primary ways to score points. The first way is to form the compatible square, what we talked about, and the second way is to beat a tile in a battle. So those are the 2 primary ways to score points. However, it can get a little bit more complicated because there is the concept of allies with the game. So let's say that instead of just the pig and the rabbit sitting here, we have a ram as well. And let's say that my opponent is controlling the ram. So we've got the ram and the rabbit here, and we've got my pig. And so let's say my pig is still coming in for the attack. My opponent, since they control the ram, and the ram is neighboring the defender, and that's a really key point. It's so key that I might actually make a separate video on it. That allies can only be allies if they are neighboring or side by side to the defending tile. So for instance, this ram could participate in the defense of the rabbit if it was here, here, or here. It could not do it if it was here, here, or here. So, but since the ram is here and it's neighboring the defender, it can be an ally in the defense of the rabbit. And how allyship works is very, very simple. All you do is you add the strength and intelligence values of the ram to the rabbit, or so you add the strength and intelligence values of the ally to the defending tile. So in this case, this would be a 5-5 entity versus a 3-4 entity. And if my pig still wanted to attack into the rabbit ram team would actually be the ones who won, and they would capture the pig and put it into their point pile for 1 point. So that is how defensive allies work. Now, there is another situation where it could be something like this, where instead of the rabbit having a defending ally, the pig has an attacking ally. And again, the same holds true. The reason why the ram can be an attacking ally is because it is neighboring the rabbit. If it were over here, a lot of people make this mistake. They say like, okay, the ram is next to the pig, so obviously it should be able to help support the pig in order to attack the rabbit. Nope, that's not how it works. The tile, any ally has to be any ally has to be neighboring the defender. So the ram could be here, here, or here. And let's just say that it's here. So again, the same thing holds true. Let's say we put the tile down and we reach this tile. Then what we would do is the attacking ally would add its strength and intelligence values to the pig. So it would be, this would be a 7-6 entity versus a 1-3 entity. Team pig would win and take this and put it into their point pile. So that is how battling works. And that right there is probably about 95% of the game taught. There are a few other little small things. I didn't go over these yet. There's 2 other tiles aside from creatures and the action tiles that are called either items or obstacles. And these get placed into the playing area just like a creature would be placed. You can see they have a strength and intelligence value. And so what these basically do is they represent items or places in the game. So an item represents an item, like a thing that you could hold, and an obstacle more or less represents a place. And generally speaking, they have kind of special powers. So like for instance, this tiger totem, if this is in the playing area, your tigers do not need a battle action tile to start a battle. So that's a pretty powerful tile. And they can be broken, and that's what these strength and intelligence values are for, because if they are attacked and beaten in battle, they can be broken. Now, an important thing to know about these is that they cannot attack, and they cannot be allies. They cannot be attacking or defending allies, and they cannot attack. They can be attacked, and they can also be defended by any creature neighboring it. So for instance, if I had this tile here and my opponent, and for some weird reason I wanted to break this tile, even though I am the one controlling it, if I wanted to break it, but for some reason my opponent did not want me to, I would say my ram is attacking my own tiger totem, and my opponent go, you know what, I don't want you to break that. And so I'm going to ally to help protect it. So that's a situation that can happen with items and obstacles. And with that, that's about 99% of the game taught. A few other little things here are these tiles that come with the game. These are called action and reaction placeholder tiles. And what are they placeholders for? Well, what you'll see is that some tiles, when they're played in the playing area, I know this might be hard to read, but it basically gives the player certain powers. Like for instance, this rabbit hole says, as a reaction, you may place a rabbit you control under this tile. Now, what that might mean is, let's say that there is a rabbit here, and there is, let's actually do it this way. My opponent controls a rabbit in the rabbit hole. I control a pig, and let's say that I start the battle, and I say, I want the pig to attack the rabbit. Now, because the player has control of this rabbit hole, and it gives them these powers, one of them being as a reaction, you can place a rabbit you control under the tile, or under this tile. What you would do to represent that reaction is use this reaction placeholder and place it right on top of the battle. So once we did the reaction tiles, let's say this was the only reaction tile that was placed on the battle action stack, you would do this reaction first, and then I would basically take this rabbit and put it under the rabbit hole before, and then this would be put off to the side before the battle happened. And then, so the battle happens, the pig goes in to bite or capture the rabbit, but the rabbit's not there anymore. So that's what these are for. These represent powers or abilities of certain tiles in the playing area that when they trigger, you would use them to put them on the stack to represent those abilities. So that is the action and reaction tiles. And then, let's see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, also, let's talk really quickly about how to set up a game, because a lot of people seem to like that. So the way that you set up a game, I mentioned before that you get two decks. You get a deck with dogs, tigers, and horses, so that's one deck. And then you get another deck with rams, pigs, and rabbits. And these are two pre-constructed decks. So one player would play the dog, tiger, horse deck, the other would play the rabbit, pig, ram deck, and you would take those decks and you would randomize them face down, shuffle them up so that people don't know what they are, and then what you would do is you would form 5 stacks. And I won't form all the stacks, but basically they would look like this. There would be 5 stacks of 8 tiles if we're talking about the 2 decks that come in starter set 1. And so that's what that would look like. It would look like this. So there would be 5 stacks in front of you, and in each stack there would be 8 tiles. So it would look kind of like that, but there would be 5 of them in front of you. And then once that's done, you would draw 5 tiles to start the game from any of the stacks. So let's just say I would draw 3. I could draw 3 from here, and let's say that there was a few here. I took a couple from there, and this would be my starting hand of 5. Let's see. And this would be my starting hand of 5. And then what would happen is everyone, both players would check their hand to see if they have at least 1 creature, which I do, and then you'd be ready to start the game. So that's kind of a really quick and easy description of the setup. Now the last little thing I'm going to go over, and that should be complete, is this on page 8 of the rule book. It goes over the game turns. And so the game turns are kind of important, but they're also very simple. So there are 5 things that you can do on your turn. And I'll just lay this out here like this. And these 5 things are, you can place a tile with a strength and intelligence into the playing area. So most of the time that's going to be a creature, but it can also be an item or an obstacle that we talked about. Another thing that you can do is you can start an action stack. Remember we talked about the action stack. It has an A up in the top right hand corner, and you would just place that off to the side and you would say, opponent, I would like to do this, and that would start an action stack with an action tile. Then the next thing you can do is start a second action stack. So after you finish with the first one, if you want to do another one and you have another action, go for it. You can also start a battle, and then you can discard 2 tiles to draw 1 new tile. So let's say you have a handful of stuff and maybe you need a creature to do something, but you don't have that creature, so you discard 2 tiles and you draw 1 to hopefully get that creature. So that's an example of something you can do. Now, you don't have to do those actions in the order I just described. You can do them in any order you want. They're all optional, so you can do all of the actions. You can do none of them, and you can do them in any order you want. You can think of it like a pool. Like a little tub where you could reach in and grab an action if you want and do that action, and then the tub kind of refills every turn. That's how I kind of think of it. And then after the turn, you must draw 1 tile from one of your stacks in front of you, and if you cannot, you must draw 1 from one of the stacks in front of you, but if you don't do any of these actions, if you don't do anything, if you don't place a tile, you don't start an action stack, you don't do any of these things, after you draw the tile that you must draw, you may draw an additional tile. And so I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much 100% of the rules. And if you have any questions about the rules, this came in at around 25 minutes, and feel free to put it down in the comments, and I'll respond to any other follow-up questions. I'll also put a link to our Discord channel, Discord server, so you can jump in, and the community is really, really cool, and it's growing. So if you have any questions, you could join our Discord, and that's another way that you can get really quick answers for the game. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope that's helped you understand Zoo Tiles a little bit better. And I hope to see you playing the game at a con or something. Thanks so much, and talk to you later. Bye.